These are statements that people keep telling us. No? When you say, I'm stressed, I'm depressed, the first thing that comes out is, oh, it is nothing. Snap out of it. The isolation part of depression somehow is looked at as independence.
Right.
Where it's easier to take it on ourselves than putting it on other people outside.
Right.
I've also seen patients who have gone for treatment, taken help. I have to be on medication, I have to be on treatment and therapy. But that doesn't have to define who I am. Hope is not built on just nothing. The experiences that people go through, it transforms how they look at things, and that's where hope comes up from. It's hard for people to let go of things like that, and that's where God says, you need to let go, you need to depend on me for me to do something about the situation.
Right. Hello, Dr. Shobitha. It's great to have you on the show.
Thank you.
Now, when we talk about depression, many people define depression as, a feeling of emptiness, a feeling where, they can't function on their daily life without, feeling some sort of a mental problem, in other words. So many youngsters today also, they face depression a lot more frequently compared to, the previous generations. Of course, it's because of the stress and all of that we face. So now I want to ask now, many people with depression, they say they're sad, like not exactly sad. They don't just say they're sad, they just say that, I feel empty. I feel, kind of a void in me. And why is that so difficult for people to understand just that term itself?
See, one of the primary symptoms of depression is what we call as anhedonia, meaning to say there's loss of interest in anything
Right.
around. So usually what happens with depression, at least in the current things that we're seeing, is it doesn't come or show as depression or as emotions.
Right.
It comes as a burnout kind of a syndrome.
Okay.
So I'm too exposed to a lot of things. I'm overstimulated by a lot of things around me, and therefore I end up shutting down.
Right.
I'm feeling overly worked out, and therefore I'm shutting down.
Right.
So it comes out as a burnout syndrome rather than as an emotion. But that is also related to depression somewhere. And also sometimes depression can also be looked at as a response to trauma, to grief, to panic and all of that, right? So those representations of from the triggers, what starts the depression in the first place.
Right.
If it's because of these kind of aspects, then it may not come as sadness necessarily.
Right.
It might more come out as irritation, or it might more come out as somewhere where I'm feeling very still, isolated. I don't feel a purpose in life. I just feel like the mundane life is just going on. Something that I read about recently also, they're talking about how depression is a disease of the civilization. So something that we have created,
Right.
and now we are not able to get out of it. So that creates a lot of difficulties, and that's why the confusion that why am I not feeling anything, but why is it also called as depression?
Right.
So understanding that difference, that depression doesn't have to be about crying, doesn't have to be about sadness. Sometimes it's just the feeling that I feel like either eating too much or not eating at all.
Right.
Sometimes it's the feeling that I don't feel anything. Why am I not able to feel anything? That in itself is depression, because it is a symptom of depression.
Right.
What we call as anhedonia. You're losing interest in everything.
Right.
You're trying to do it, you're pushing yourself, you're forcing yourself to do things, but you're not satisfied at the end of it.
Right.
You're not getting anything in return at the end of it. And that in itself can trigger the thoughts of depression that, what, I'm done with everything.
Right.
I am so done and I don't want to move on from there.
Right. Now, when many people oftenly face depression, like they tend to shut everyone else out around them. Now, why is this the case? Because usually a lot of people say when you're going through depression, it's best to have somebody there to talk to, somebody there to help you out. But many people, they don't want to take that help. Why is that the case?
No, depression, again, one of the primary aspects of depression is isolation.
Right.
I want to be alone. I don't want to be with people. The thought of being with someone itself is very annoying.
Right.
right? That is one way of looking at why people don't want anybody around them. The second process is the cognitive thought process depression can come with.
Right.
One is what we call as the burden framework,
Okay.
where people feel that I am a burden to others and therefore I tend to isolate myself.
Right.
I don't want to put pressure on my parents. I don't want to put pressure on my siblings.
Right.
Because of me, everybody is around, suffering around me. I am the cause for everything. So these are all statements that people with depression usually talk about. And therefore, they don't want people around them because of this thought process itself.
Right.
That I am the causative factor for everything. Everybody will be fine if I am out of the picture. Right? So that's one way of thinking about it. The other aspect is also that depression makes you feel that you are not good enough just the way you are.
Right.
You're not enough in yourself, and therefore you don't want to be with others around. You tend to isolate more. It's a symptom of depression.
Right. Now you spoke about, self-blame. So I'm going to ask now, why does depression often, go or come with, the guilt feeling or the feeling of self-blame? And like, even when somebody, logically knows, how and why, like, that feeling of self-blame and all did not cause it.
Right.
Like cause their entire thing to spiral down, right?
Okay. So let me ask you a question. Just think about this for 2 minutes, okay? The fork gave birth to the spoon.
Okay.
What do you think?
How? Yeah, how is
Think
it
about it.
possible? Yeah,
How?
right.
So I'll just give you a minute. You think about it.
I'm not really sure how. Like, because the fork is, a three-pronged
Yeah.
utensil and a spoon is, the curved ones.
Yes.
So how does it come logically?
Okay. But the minute I asked the question, what
Right.
were you trying to do? Trying to make a connection.
Right.
Trying to see whether is there a connection or not.
Right.
That's basically how our brain works. It is a machine where it is trying to make sense, process information all the time. Right? The same happens when somebody is depressed as well. The brain is trying to make meaning out of the emotions that I'm feeling at that point of time.
Right.
So it is linking one to the other. And the easier version is to blame myself because then I have this illusion of control. The minute I put it on myself, I have this illusion of control that it is me, not someone else. Therefore, I can control it.
Right.
Now, that's an illusion of control people work on. Losing control is very scary for a lot of people. Like, I can't control things, it is not under my control is a very scary part.
Right.
So, having this illusion of control is very, very important, right? The second aspect of it is some people self-blame for protecting themselves. Before someone else can tell something about me, it's better I tell it and it's my processing, so it's not coming from someone else.
Right.
So it's for self-protection and I take care of myself in that process, right? The third part is sometimes people tell that to evoke sympathy, to ask for support, ask for help. Now, if I say I'm not okay, then maybe they will come over and help out.
Right.
And sometimes these cognitive processes that we have in our brain is built up over a period of time because of background that we grow up in, the family meanings that we have to different behaviors that we do, the family routines that we grow up with, the cultural belief systems we come from, the religious belief systems we come from.
Right.
All these have already given us a set of framework that if you are depressed, then it is not somebody else's problem.
Right. They feel like it's only your problem.
It's only our problem. You need to snap out of it. You're depressed, get out of it. You don't feel that way. These are statements that people keep telling us. No? When you say, I'm stressed, I'm depressed, the first thing that comes out is, oh, it is nothing. Snap out of it.
They disregard it completely.
They disregard it completely. So this is where the aspect of self-blame and guilt is coming from, where it's easier to take it on ourselves than putting it on other people outside.
Right. Now, what are some ways depression, reshapes a person's identity and the way how they live?
Quite a lot. It could be both positive and negative.
Right.
So the negative aspect of looking at it is something that happens in the brain physically when somebody is depressed is the memory is affected.
Okay.
So what happens when memory is affected is the good memories people have had before, it tends to get pushed under the rug, or
Right.
they tend to not recall the good times they have had. So the cognition entirely then becomes that my life has always been bad.
Right.
I've always been like this. I've always been bad. Things have always been sad around me. So what happens after a point? That becomes who I am.
Right.
So the symptoms of depression, when we say I don't feel like doing anything, becomes I am nothing.
Right.
Right?
So you replace like all your, good memories, your good achievements,
Yes.
which actually make you something.
Exactly.
And now you're replacing them with all negative things, which make you feel like
Exactly.
you're absolutely nothing.
Yes, absolutely nothing. So we completely tend to change who we are as a personality itself.
Right.
Where we start looking at how things can only be bad, and like it's not saying that I am feeling sad, then the statement becomes I am a sad person.
Right.
So that way it reshapes the way we think, the way we process, the way we look at things, and also, putting our abilities down, saying, instead of saying, I lack the interest to do something or I lack the motivation to do something, I am not good at this.
Right. Right.
So the entire the framework of how we think, shrinking our potential, pushing our abilities down, all of that reshapes the way we look at ourselves at
Right.
after a point. Like
Right. Right.
everything becomes a struggle, everything becomes a fight, everything becomes a push that you have to force yourself to do because you don't have a choice. But given a choice, you would not do that.
Right. So it's more of a battle within
It's
yourself.
more of a battle. It always becomes an internal conflict.
Right.
I want to do, but I'm not able to do.
Right.
So that's how depression can really reshape how we look at that aspect.
Right.
And in the current way where we are looking at how youngsters work in, one of the drastic changes we are also seeing is the isolation part of depression somehow is looked at as independence.
Right.
I don't want to be dependent on someone because that is more hurtful. I would rather be isolated and call that as independence.
Right.
And which is very dangerous because what happens is when we start thinking like that, we refuse to ask for help
Right.
because we don't look at that as a problem. And it puts us in very grave situation. So until things become too late, we don't ask for help, we don't seek help.
Right.
So that is the negative aspect of how depression can shape us.
Right.
The positive framework, on the contrary, is I've also seen patients who have gone for treatment, taken help, and then they're able to live with the fact that, you know what, now depression is, I understand, is going to be a part of me for
Right.
the rest of my life. I have to be on medication, I have to be on treatment and therapy, but that doesn't have to define who I am.
Right.
I know it is there, but let me see how I can live with it. Right? So they end up actually positively making lifestyle changes, trying to make an effort to understand what triggers them and seeing if the triggers can be minimized, understanding what depression is about. And there are many people who have been able to not overcome being in that, but trying to understand what has helped them and see how that can be given to others,
Right.
that others can also use to help. So a lot of researchers, if you talk to them, they have gone through the process.
Right.
A lot of people have gone through the process of the feeling of isolation, feeling suicidal, like the last minute thing. They have attempted, they have come back, and they've tried to understand why that happens
Right.
and what can be done to prevent it. So depression does both. It can negatively impact us, it can positively impact us, but it depends upon the person themselves and their internal locus of control. What is it that I want to do? Now I know I have this.
Right.
What do I want to do with that?
Right. So it's more important to, find out what's the root cause of this and,
Yes.
solve it from the root
Yeah.
level rather
Yes.
than, let it continue.
True.
Right. Now, the Bible does speak of a lot of people whose strength fails. And of course, when your strength fails, your spirit does get crushed overall. Now, how does depression help us understand that, what's it like to, keep going, especially if you have God's influence with you, even if you're going through a very hard time, but you're still, still going through with the help of God.
It's still tough.
Okay.
It's still tough.
Hmm.
Because if you look at characters from the Bible, Jeremiah,
Right.
Elijah, David, in the most difficult times of their life, the one thing they have done is fought with God,
Right.
lamented, cried, and said, I told you this will happen, but you still pushed me into this. Now see what is happening to me.
Right.
I mean, I really feel sorry for Jeremiah when I read about him. For reason why he is called as a weeping prophet.
Right.
So there's so many things that happens, but the difference is when you're with God, though you are hurt, though you feel the pain, though you feel that things are not going to change, you still have that hope.
Right.
You still have that. What God does when you're depressed is also very amazing to see. He very gently restores us. Right? Something that God gives for people who are depressed in the Bible, if you look at it, is most often He tells them to rest.
Right.
Rest and wait in Him. Right? Now, this word wait is not just the wait that we understand. This word wait in God is more or less like intertwining ropes together.
Right.
The Greek word of wait is different. So the meaning there is putting 2 or 3 ropes together and binding it more stronger.
Right.
So it's like God literally unraveling parts of you that is going to undo you and putting other things together.
Right.
That will hold you up.
Right.
So there's also people who have in sessions when they have shared with me, they have said things like, I know the depression was because of what I did. I can see Jesus in front of me. I know He's there, but I am not able to reach out to Him. So accepting the fact that God is there and being able to reach out is something that people struggle with because of guilt,
Right.
because of shame. And that is what depression does to us, make us feel that we are the ones who are at fault.
Right.
But contrarily, if you look at Bible characters, especially if you look at David, the kind of things that he has done, and then the aspect of forgiveness, when that comes into picture, the way he repents, the way he gets back, and then of course things are up and down. What God does try to tell us through different characters in the Bible is nothing is going to be stable. You're up, you're not going to be up all the time. You're down, you're not going to be down all the time. The ECG line has to be up and down to know that you are alive.
Right.
So it is good, it is fine to be there. But to know that there is someone above you.
Right.
To hold up, to look on to.
Right.
To know that when you're extremely exhausted, it's okay to let go and it's okay to sit back. That reassurance is something that changes how we look at depression itself.
Right.
A lot of people, a lot of Bible characters you look at, like Paul, for all that he has gone through, the persecutions that he has gone through, it's quite intense. Does not mean that he had not gone through depression. Probably he was living in depression the whole time. But what did it take for him to be sitting in a prison and singing praises to God?
Right.
So the conviction, what I would say in this context is, it's hard for people to let go of things like that. And that's where God says, you need to let go. You need to depend on me for me to do something about the situation.
Right.
But the most difficult thing for people to do is letting go.
Right.
That sense of control is very, very difficult to process. So biblical understanding of where this hope is coming from, the fact that I have someone to rely back on.
Right.
It's okay to let go. There are times where I can sit back and just be by myself with this person is something that definitely helps people.
Right. Even when we look at Job, for example, like he had a lot, God took it away, and the amount of stuff that just kept affecting him. But the Bible was very clear. It says Job still did not lose faith in God.
Yes.
He still had faith in God. And eventually he got like many more times than he had, right?
Yes.
So, of course, that also teaches us to, continue having faith in God.
Yes.
So now in the Bible, now hope doesn't deny pain, but it just says trust in God, right? Now, how do you see it? Like the kind of hope that forms in people who are struggling.
People forming hope is the most difficult process,
Right.
at least in the current scenario, because there are a lot of people, especially in the church, who know Christ, but who are not able to have that hope.
Right.
Because somewhere in the process, they see Christ, who's portrayed by other people, who's portrayed by church. But hope is built when we develop that personal sense of relationship with Christ.
Right.
What is my relationship with Christ? What has been my experience with Christ? That builds hope
Right.
for many people. Otherwise, when I say build hope, have hope, God is there, it is not going to make sense until I go through the process and I taste and see that He is good.
Right. Like you set that example
Yes.
for others to
Know. Yes,
Yeah.
exactly. So sometimes I wish people also talk about the process, because many people who are healed and who have moved on don't want to testify about the process they have gone through
Exactly.
for various reasons. They have their reasons about anonymity, and the process they have gone through could be very painful. So all of that understood. But the more they talk about it, it will be better for others to know how God can work in the lives, how hope can be built.
Right. Right.
The other aspect of hope is how our brain functions itself.
Right.
It's really amazing to see how God has made the brain and how it functions. So it's understandable that decision making is something that takes a back hit when someone is depressed, because you can't for once decide what is the right thing to do.
Right.
Decision making becomes very dicey at that point when you're depressed, because it's only your emotions ruling, there is no logic. When you're talking about hope, you're talking about logic. You're talking about making sense. So faith might look like saying that, without seeing it, you have to have faith. But there is a logic, there is a rationale to it.
Right.
There is a belief to it. There is an underlying component that is standing strong. The basement is there. Without that, trying to make someone have faith in something is going to be very, very hard.
Right.
So hope is not built on just nothing. The experiences that people go through, it transforms how they look at things, and that's where hope comes up from. Experiences of what they see in the lives of others around them.
Right. Right.
That definitely brings in hope. And also the fact of who you are as an individual. You're by nature, you can be someone who's very optimistic.
Right.
And therefore depression does not hit you that hard. You still look towards something. You still feel that, okay, there is hope. I can still try. Let me try an alternative. Let me try this. Let me do that. But if you are by nature someone who is very negative in your thinking process, someone who's very pessimistic,
Right.
to build hope from there without a base can be
Very
little
difficult,
difficult in that context. So they might need additional help to understand, to build up on hope in that context.
Right. Now, especially when we talk about hope and all, it's much better, like as you said, like people who already have that base to, then it's easier to build hope. But
Yeah.
when people don't have that base, it's extremely difficult for them. And most cases, even when people do get help and all, it's usually at the later stages,
Yes.
which of course
Yes.
the suicide things do
Yeah.
happen.
Yeah.
Right.
But there's no time frame to this.
Right. It can happen at any moment.
It can happen at any point of time.
Right.
Anything can transform us at any given point of time.
Right.
So we just have to be aware, conscious, and see what is there in front of us.
Right.
That's all.
Okay. Thank you, Dr. Shobitha, for joining the show.
Thank
It was a pleasure to have you.